Alright, well, this is my 2023 Tesla Model Y long range, and I've now had it for 10,000 miles, driven it on a bunch of road trips and in all kinds of different situations, and this is my third Tesla now, so stick with me and I'll tell you all about the pros and cons of having a Tesla, what you might need to know if you are considering one, and what things to look out for.
That's right.
Alright, well, we're here inside of the Model Y now, and after our big road trip to Vermont, we just crossed 10,000 miles, so a little bit delayed. We're now at 10,231. So this car now is my third Tesla, first Model Y. This is the Model Y long range, but before this we had a Model 3 long range that we ended up only keeping for about 2 months. I'm kind of trading into this one. And before that, we had a 2018 or 19 Model 3 standard range, which was is the cheapest model that Tesla produces. So previously, they used to have a Model 3 that kind of sat between the standard range and the long range. That was a rear-wheel drive one. Now it's really just the standard range. They used to have this standard range, what they call Plus. Now they just have the rear-wheel drive one and the long-range all-wheel drive in performance. So the model line has changed a little bit, but kind of overall stance. We went from what was basically the most affordable Tesla up to longer range variant of the Model 3, now to this, which is kind of sits, well, I guess at the bottom of the Model Y, because it's not the performance. But we ended up in this car because we wanted a little bit more room than the Model 3, and we were taking more and more trips, so I figured it was nice to have the extra space, carrying capacity, convenience, certainly the range. And at that point, the resale market on Teslas was so hot that we were actually able to sell the 3 for enough of a profit that basically paid for the difference going up to the 1. So nowadays, the resale market has definitely fallen off, but along with that, Tesla's lowered prices fairly regularly. And so the Model Y now, I think, is honestly quite a steal in the electric car market. So prices kind of change all the time, but between the tax credit and the car is now eligible anywhere up to $80,000, which all Model Ys are certainly under. You can get this pretty affordably now. And so I think of all of the EVs out there, this one is probably the most of a no-brainer from price. So comparing this car to the Model 3, it's not super different. I mean, it's all based on the same platform. You really don't feel too much of a difference other than the height of the car. So basically this car is a few inches taller. You have a little bit more headroom here. There's no headliner right behind the driver's seat here like there is in the 3. Look for airplanes, yeah. Oh, look good for looking for airplanes because you have more visibility. Yeah. And you sit up a little bit higher in here too, so the seats are a little bit more on a riser than in the 3. I think in terms of like the driving feel and stuff, it's pretty close. The 3 is definitely a little bit sportier, a little like tighter in the handling, a little more go-karty, I'd say, just because you're not up as high, you don't have as much like sort of sway in the car. But this is certainly a ton of fun to drive too. Especially coming from any sort of internal combustion car, you're going to feel the acceleration and just power and instant torque in here so much more. And so this definitely feels quite sporty as well. You also have a bit more room in here, not only in terms of like passenger space, but because this has the hatchback, there's definitely more room in the back too, so easier to store stuff. And you have more like vertical space compared to the 3, which is not really a hatchback, but more of like a traditional just sort of trunk. So I find it a lot easier to get stuff in here, which having 3 kids is absolutely a benefit. Yeah, so this car now, after 10,000 miles, I feel like we're pretty used to it, and I've kind of figured out most of the quirks and things with it. So before this, with the Model 3 standard range that we had, we put over 30,000 miles on that one. So we spent quite a lot of time in Teslas now. And one of the nice things about them is that whether you're if you're coming from like any other car going into a Tesla, it's so kind of simple and easy that really I would highly suggest it for like basically anybody coming into the EV world. They just make it so simple, from the software to the way the car is designed, and the user friendliness of it and everything, that it's almost, I always kind of equate it to like an iPhone versus an Android phone. An Android phone, sure, you have more options and customization. You can kind of get more into stuff with it, make it your own. Whereas with the Tesla, everything is just more simplified, less kind of customization. Although I can talk a little bit more later about accessories and stuff. One of the nice things is that you certainly can make the car your own. But in terms of just like the software and ease of use and stuff, I think there's very few other auto manufacturers out there that make things just as simple and straightforward and easy to get used to as Tesla. And going from one to another, everything is just it's all very straightforward, all very similar and consistent. And so like coming from the 3 to the Y, super easy, and like just immediately hopped in and knew where everything was. It was so simple. I think that this car in general is just an amazingly fun car to drive. I think it compares well to some of the sportier cars I've had, like going all the way back to the Mini Cooper S that we had, to the BMW Z4s, certainly over our 3 Series that we had before I got the first Tesla. The acceleration in here, due to the dual motors, is just absolutely incredible. I mean, it doesn't compare to like the Model S Plaid or something like that, but still no slouch. I mean, you can get from 0 to 60 in certainly under 7 seconds. I think under 6, in even the non-performance version. And merging onto highways, speeding up to go around people, avoiding obstacles and things like that. Just so simple and easy in this car. You just touch the pedal and it just instant responsiveness, which I think makes it a ton of fun to drive. It does not get old at all. And the handling too is really quite nice. It's drive-by-wire, but it's just very well tuned. You really don't need very much input overall into the steering wheel to feel the response. So I wouldn't say it's quite like twitchy, but certainly quite close to that in terms of handling. It's not like a lofty, wafty kind of car. Certainly very tightly connected, and even on the highway at speeds, you have to put very little overall turn into the wheel to make the car respond the way that you want. And when you're driving around on back roads and twisties and stuff, it's just absolutely phenomenal for that. It makes it so easy to make the car go exactly where you want to go. And I find that this, even compared to the 3, since we had just the rear wheel one, this, since it's all wheel, you're just so tightly connected to the road. You really get very little under or oversteer, and that's even just on the stock tires, the all-season tires that are on here. Just handles and responds very nicely. So I mean, it doesn't compare to like a true sports car, but I think compared to pretty much any other like family, mid-size kind of crossover or compact SUV kind of thing, this is probably very up there in terms of overall performance and handling. And I think coming from any other comparable type of car, especially in the ICE world, to this, this just feels so much nicer and is so much more fun to drive. I look forward to getting into this car and driving it around, just because it always puts a smile on my face when we're driving. Another thing that makes it fun to drive and actually easier to drive is the one-pedal driving and regenerative braking. So a lot of EVs, actually I'd say almost all, have what's called regenerative braking, which is when you let up off of the acceleration pedal, and it will actually kind of naturally like slow itself down. And the way it's doing it is it's actually using the resistance in the motors as you're decelerating to put energy back through them and into the battery. So you're actually recovering battery and range as you're doing that. But one of the benefits of that is it means you really don't have to use the brake pedal very much at all in this car. So I can go from 60 and just take my foot off and pretty rapidly brake down without ever touching the brake pedal, which means little wear on the brakes, means I'm putting energy back into the car. And especially like around town, it's just so nice and convenient. You come to a stoplight, stop sign, even just like need to slow down and let somebody merge or turn or something, and all of it you can just do with one foot. You don't realize like kind of how it's not like you're burning a ton of calories or something, but it can be like a little bit taxing switching your foot from the acceleration to the brake pedal all the time. So being able to do it all with just one foot is quite nice, and something I definitely enjoy, and I have a hard time going back to any car that doesn't have that now. Alright, another thing that is really nice in the Tesla is Autopilot, which is what Tesla calls their autonomous or semi-autonomous driver's assistance. And what you get in what's called basic Autopilot, which is what comes standard included in every Tesla for nothing extra, is basically just keeps you in your lane, automatic radar-based, or actually it's not radar-based, it's vision-based from the cameras, but vision-based automatic traffic-aware cruise control, which means that it'll slow you down and speed you up based off of cars in front of you. Basically maintains distance to the cars in front of you. And what's really nice about it is it's not like truly hands-free. They don't have sensor to like make sure that your eyes are on the road, although they have started using the camera that is up here to start keeping track of if you're looking around. But all I really have to do is just rest my hand on the wheel. Provides enough resistance as input into the wheel to tell the system that I do have my hands on the wheel, and then it'll basically drive and steer for me, which is super nice. And it's not limited to pre-mapped roads like a lot of other cars are. It's not limited to highways, so you can use it on back roads and around town, and just really super nice on things like road trips where not having to just like constantly make these little micro adjustments as you're steering even on a straight road. It really is relaxing and helps you make it much longer on road trips without feeling so tired and fatigued. It's been an absolute lifesaver on some of the trips that we've done up into Vermont and down to Virginia, and I've just really come to depend on it. Now, what you don't get compared to some other cars is basically anything that would take me out of this lane or like otherwise kind of respond. So if I want to change lanes, the system is basically locked in right now. I can't really steer it. So what I have to do is I can put on the turn signal and then put a little bit of torque in and it'll release, but like now I'm totally off autopilot, so it's not steering for me at all. And so then when I want to go back into a lane and put it back on, basically I have to get there and then engage the system again, and now it's locked back in. Whereas some others would let you just execute a turn yourself, and it'll keep the system on and just lock you in automatically as you get into the lane. And then others, you can actually do automatic lane changes through the system. So if you want that in Tesla, you have to go up to the next level of autopilot, which is called Enhanced Autopilot, which is $6,000 as a one-time payment. But for me, I don't see how that's possibly worth it, even over the course of maybe keeping the car for like 5 years or something. It's still a lot of money, and I don't think it's worth it for what is basically just the ability to change lanes automatically. I mean, it does come with other stuff like what they call navigate on autopilot. So like I could put our destination here. It would actually put me in this lane and like keep steering here. But I don't really care that much about that. And it also gives you the ability to summon the car in the app, which is pretty limited in actual use. Seems like it'd be a cool thing to be able to do, have your car like come find you out of a parking garage or something, but it's not that capable. But autopilot itself, I find, it's quite good. There are some limitations to it in places where it's not quite perfect. Phantom braking is definitely still a problem. That's where it just decides that
it needs to brake because it might think that a shadow or something else is like an obstacle or a car, and so it will just rapidly brake you. Sometimes on the highway, which can definitely be dangerous because you're basically brake checking people behind you. It doesn't happen super often, but I definitely still see it regularly enough. And I think a big part of that is because Tesla moved from a radar and LiDAR-based system, or not just radar-based system, to a vision-only camera-based system. And I think it's pretty incredible what they're doing with cameras, but there's definitely limitations to that. And looks like they have at least been toying with bringing radars back into the latest versions or the updated versions of these cars. All right, so here's one nice big benefit of the Y over the 3. You have this pass-through between the seats here, which is perfect for, in our case, skis, but would also fit, golf bag or, I don't know, guitar, some other stuff. But I mean, you can just see how much room we have here. We're barely even, filling the trunk, and we've got plenty of extra space there. So this is definitely a nice step up over the 3 in terms of space and how much stuff you can fit in here. So then one level above enhanced autopilot is what Tesla calls full self-driving, which is basically the intending to be fully autonomous ability to drive on highways and even on city streets. And so it is still in beta, but you can pay $15,000 for a one-time fee or $200 a month to get it just for a month. And basically that'll allow the car to drive itself entirely. Like, it'll take turns for you, stop at traffic lights, stop signs, figure out how to safely cross traffic and things like that. And it's definitely impressive for what it's doing, especially since it's all camera-based systems as well. But certainly still limited, and there are a lot of bugs that are getting worked out with it. So I'm not paying for that right now. I think paying that much money to be a beta tester of something that is still fairly buggy, in some cases quite dangerous, is just not something I'm looking to do right now. But it'll be interesting to see how that continues to come along and how much progress they can make on it, because it certainly has come a long way in the last several years. And so if they can stay on that trajectory, I think it could get quite good soon. But I don't know, I think this whole dream of buying the value of Tesla being that you're going to be able to make your car a completely autonomous taxi that's going to go and make money for you while you're doing something else is still far, far, far away. One of the things that is what took me to Tesla in the first place, and what certainly has kept me here now through 3 cars and the 10,000 miles of this car, is the Tesla Supercharging network, which is just the absolute gold standard for electric charging. What, bud?
I'm glad we got to keep the Model Y.
So on a day-to-day basis, it really doesn't make a big difference what the charging network is. I think with any EV, for us at least, we're able to plug in at home in our garage. And what's really nice about having an EV over an ICE car is that essentially we never have to go to a gas station, and it's very rare that we even have to stop for charging. And so every night we're basically filling the car up as it charges overnight. So you're always starting the day with essentially a full tank of battery, which is super convenient and nice. And obviously the electricity is much cheaper than gas in general. Even now, gas prices have come back down. So we going up to Vermont, for example, we spent going up and back, we charged 4 times. I think it was about, let's say, $30 on average. So $120 versus what would have been probably 2 fill-ups. So closer to definitely over $200 in the Buick. I think big advantage of Tesla over other EVs is this supercharging network. So when you do need to go charge, whether it's on a road trip or you just don't have the ability to do it at home,
now turn left
the supercharging network is just so convenient and omnipresent and well maintained and always available and just so easy to use. It really, I think it's just light years ahead of what the other
charge operators have done. So with Tesla, you can just put your destination in. The navigation and software in the car will figure out exactly when you're going to need to stop. It'll tell you how long you need to stop. It'll optimize it based off of traffic and weather conditions. It'll optimize based off of the busyness and pricing of the superchargers. I think that part in particular could probably get a bit better. Like, there are times that it sends me to ones I don't think are necessarily the absolute optimal, but but it's still very good. And for anyone who doesn't want to spend hours ahead of trips planning out exactly where they're going to stop and for how long and everything, you really can just get in the car, plug in where you're going, and let the car take care of the rest. It is just incredible. And superchargers are just everywhere. Every single major highway and route, off of the highways, in areas that you wouldn't even expect them to be in. And a lot of times they're like right off the highway too, so you're really not adding very much time to your overall trip by stopping to charge at them. The other nice thing about them is, the car itself will tell you how many chargers are currently available. It'll tell you if any are out of order, being worked on right now. But Tesla does such a good job of keeping them maintained and running that it's almost never a problem at all. I mean, in the probably close to 50 superchargers that I've stopped at now over the course of having these cars, there's never been a case where like the entire station was down or having a major problem. The most I've ever seen is like maybe one, absolutely most two charging stalls maybe being down. Sometimes they are busy. I've never had to wait in the line at one, but I've come into ones where I'm like the second to last or last person a couple of times, and I've seen other people waiting, but it's just never happened for me. But the vast majority of times you pull into them and they're like barely half full, which is absolutely great. So it's just super easy and convenient with it. And even with Tesla opening up the supercharger network, I think Tesla is just going to continue to be industry leading in charging, and a huge reason that I ended up going with Tesla, and that even despite wanting to branch out and try something different, I think potentially we'll be staying with Tesla for a while still because of that. But yeah, touching on the software in the car too, so not only does it do great navigation and route planning, but it's just I find it to be quite a good overall like multimedia system. So obviously you have the giant screen here that gives you all of your information. There's no dashboard or like heads-up display, although you can get a third-party one like the one that I've got here. But basically everything is going to be here on the screen for both your driving, including like your speed and autopilot and turn signal and everything like that. And then over here you've got your navigation and everything else. And so what I like about this is that Tesla is so good about software that they constantly push new updates. So this entire UI has changed multiple times. When they went to this version at first, I really didn't like it, and I think a lot of other people didn't either, but I've gotten used to it, and they've kind of slowly iterated on it to the point where it's certainly gotten better, and I think back in like a pretty good usable place now. So you've got like this dock at the bottom of different apps, and then kind of the big screens here. So some of the cool stuff that you have in here, in addition to what you would normally expect in a car, you have this app here that shows you different like charging stats and how your consumption is going. And so it tells you like exactly where your energy has been going, whether it's driving, climate control, battery conditioning, if you're going to charge in a second, but elevation and other stuff. And then it even gives you suggestions about what you could do to be more efficient. So I like this one especially on longer drives. But then in terms of like entertainment, when you're stopped, you can watch from Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, YouTube, Twitch, TikTok, and Tesla tutorial videos. So that's great for when you're sitting and charging and need something to do, or even if you're just like sitting and waiting somewhere. There are a few times that we've popped in there and watched something. There's also a whole bunch of different games, and then there are what they call these toy box modes. Yeah, so there's this toy box modes that the kids love. So
You can, the car actually has speakers outside, so you can do boombox. You can like use the car kind of as a megaphone, or even play music outside through the outside speakers. And then this one, which has always been the biggest hit with the kids, is because of the awesome surround sound speakers in here, you can make sounds sound like they're coming from anywhere in the car. So this one lets you do fart sounds from any seat, so there we go. The kids absolutely love this one. But there's some fun stuff in there too. And then you also, one of the things that recently came in the kind of like end of the year 2022 software update is they have added some additional music providers now, like Apple Music. Oh, that's interesting. It signed me out somehow. So I'll have to fix that. But been really enjoying using that now because Apple Music's what I had. Before that, they only had Spotify. And now I can, listen to my Apple Music through here. And the app itself is pretty good. It's easy to find stuff, and I like that you can do like stations and listen to the radio through there too. One thing I don't really love here though is I wish they just had true CarPlay and Android Auto. It's nice that like these apps have been getting added, so more functionality that you would have from your phone is getting replicated here. But even with all of this, you still don't have apps like Waze for navigation or Apple Maps. You can't do like your podcast app of choice, and several music providers and stuff still aren't in here. So it would be really awesome to have CarPlay and Android Auto in here, but it doesn't really seem like that is the way that they're moving right now. It seems like they're kind of more just adding these apps over time. But yeah, with the software updates, I think Tesla's absolutely crushing it with that. Sometimes the updates are little and they just add little tiny things or bug fixes. Sometimes you get these big updates that like totally overhaul the UI, and sometimes you get stuff that actually just changes the car itself. So one of the more recent ones was this auto turn signal functionality. So what's cool about it is you put the turn signal on and the car will figure out like basically when you have completed whatever thing you were going to do. So if it's like a lane merge, it'll shut itself off once you're fully in the other lane. If it's an actual turn, it'll just turn off like normal. But it's quite nice. So like instead of it just being sort of the default 3 blinks, it'll actually just keep going until you have done whatever it is that it's like detected that you were doing. So you get all kinds of updates like that. There's also one where when you put the turn signal on, it'll show camera view for that side, which makes it safer to see what's going on in your blind spot and stuff. There was an update a while back where they actually increased the charging rate of the car. There's one where they increased the usable part of the battery so that you actually got more range. And they're just regularly pushing updates that are make the car better and better over time, which is I think really disrupting in the industry, because previously when you'd buy a car, that was a car you were stuck with and it was only going to get worse over time. With these, they get more capabilities as time goes on. Alright, so one other really cool feature is the Tesla app, which lets you control a ton of things about your car from your phone, even when you're not in the car, including what we just did, which was turn on the heat in the car while we were walking back so that we got here to a nice hot and toasty car. So you can see here, you can even do the heated seats and steering wheels. Oh, one really nice other software feature that they added recently in an update was automatic heated seats and heated steering wheel. So before it was basically just always on or off, and now you can do automatic and it'll do it automatically and turn it on and off kind of to maintain the temperature. So it's really nice because it used to get super hot and it would like burn your hands after a few minutes, so you'd have to just shut it off entirely. Now it takes care of it itself. But you can do that, you can see where the car is, you can even control your music and see your charge stats and control charging and everything from here, which is really cool. This is also how you schedule service. And so one other major factor, of course, with the Tesla is the range and how suitable it is for a daily driver and as a road trip car. And what I've found now, having 3 different electric cars and driving a few others, is that it's really not so much about the range. Honestly, like 90% of the time, a car that had, probably like 150 miles of range really would be plenty, because you're not really driving around that far.
Like for us at least, most of the time our driving is just like, you know, to sports activities, to and from school, for our commute to work, you know, that kind of thing, and that's all, you know, really short. And then the most regular, like longer trips we take are generally within like 100 miles or so. So going to visit family, going into New York, stuff like that. So, you know, really don't need like even close to the full range of this car, which is over 300 miles at least rated, and then, you know, in general probably get more like 280 to maybe 300 if you really kind of stretch it. But that turns out to not be such a big factor. And what I've actually found is more important is, especially on like road trips where you might think that range is important, is actually the charging speed. So regardless of like how much range you get, you're gonna have to stop periodically, right? I mean, maybe it's a difference between having to stop after, you know, only 200 miles or closer to 300, depending on the range. But in practice, that's not such a huge deal. And what makes the biggest difference is how long you actually have to stop and wait there while you're charging. So charging speed is a much bigger factor in that. And while there are plenty of other cars that have even faster charging rates, especially like the cars on Hyundai's GMP platform, or you know, cars like the Porsche Taycan or Lucid, in reality, this car actually gets quite fast charging. It's, at least in the Tesla range, is slower than the Model X and S, which can charge faster, deeper across the pack. But this car can, you know, still charge, at least at low states of charge, up to, like I've seen 250, all the way up to like just under 255 kilowatts, which ends up charging super fast. So you can go from like, let's say 10% to 80% in maybe around like 20-25 minutes. And that's, I mean, that's really all you need on like most road trips.
Car wash.
Car wash? Oh, that would be a good idea. But, you know, what it enables you to do with fast charging like that is just kind of hop between the chargers. So I find that, you know, a lot of the time, if we need to just charge quickly, we're not going to go from like 0 to 100%. It's much more, you know, something like 15-20% up to, you know, 75-80ish%, and that's only, you know, generally going to be like 20 to 30 minutes. And if we actually want to charge longer, we'll usually kind of pair that up with like a food stop. So, you know, get some lunch, run to the bathroom, get dinner or something, and that might be, you know, more like 40-45 minutes, in which case we can take the car, you know, much closer to even like 100%. So that really makes the biggest difference. And I found that, you know, while having this extra range in the Model Y long range over the Model 3 standard range that we used to have, which I think only got like 220 to 240 miles of range, versus over 300 in here, it really is not making like a massive difference. It's just, you know, every once in a while there's a trip that's right kind of on that cusp, which means we can make it in this car, whereas we would have had to stop and charge the other one. But honestly, it's not a big deal. So if you're looking around, I would say it's probably not necessarily worth it to pay if all you're really getting is a little bit extra range. Like really kind of try to figure out if you are actually going to need and use that on a regular basis, and if you can kind of make up for it just with charging on other times. So one thing that I do get asked about this car quite a bit is, you know, do I regret getting it at the time that I got it, especially with the price changes and with the big refresh coming up. And, you know, I think one of the things you kind of have to get used to with Tesla, since it's quite different from other manufacturers, is that you never know exactly what things are going to get changed and when, and it's just sort of always happening constantly over time. There's not like a big model year refresh like the more traditional legacy auto manufacturers do. And even when they do make changes, they generally kind of roll it out slowly across different model variants and in different places and stuff. So you never know like exactly where you're going to get. So I really don't think that it's worth waiting for, you know, anything based off of rumors of what Tesla's going to do next. I think if you are interested in the car, you can afford it, and it feels right for you, now is the best time to get it, because you never know if prices are going to go up or they're going to change something and make it worse. You know, make your decision based off of what is available now in the current situation, and don't regret it at any point in the future. I know that they've got presumably the new self-driving hardware coming out soon, which includes some new upgrades over even non-self-driving stuff like the radar and like distance control stuff. But I mean, like I said before, I'm really not at all interested in full self-driving, so that's not a big deal for me. And then it also seems that they're going to be, you know, doing like a major refresh of the car soon, which might actually get rid of the stalks and move the turn signal and wipers and stuff onto the steering wheel with capacitive buttons, like they have in the S and the X. But I think, you know, they're also aiming to reduce the price of the car quite a bit with that and make it less complex. So, you know, there are benefits with that, but again, I don't think it's worth waiting for that. You don't know exactly how long it's going to take for that to roll out. You don't know what the price is going to look like. You don't know what features are going to come immediately with it versus having to wait. So I think, again, now is a good time to do it, and make your decision based off of what's available right now, not the promise of what might be available in the future. And along with that, you know, one of the things I really do like about Tesla is that there's a great aftermarket accessories market. So you can find all kinds of things that can help you make your car feel a bit more unique, stand out a little bit more, personalize it, and even, you know, customize it to give you things that it might not otherwise come with. So like I mentioned before, you can get a dash screen here that gives you things like your speed and the speed limit, your state of charge, range, odometer, things like that, that you would normally have in a car, but you don't get here in the 3 or the Y. There's, you know, also great accessories like floor mats and extra storage space, these roof racks, changing the wheels so that it looks a little bit more custom. You can even change the puddle lamps and the door sills, put in some that have lights which help us at night with getting the kids in and stuff. So, you know, make sure to check out all the videos that I've done around those things. But bigger thing is that what's really nice about Tesla is, you know, since all the cars are so similar and on the same platform, accessories made for one work for others in general, and so there's just a ton out there. So I really like that flexibility and ability to customize the car kind of to your own desires to make it your own, that you might not get in a lot of other cars. All right, so here you've got the exterior of the car, and in terms of exterior styling, you know, I think it's fine. It was maybe a little bit more interesting when it first came out, but now there's just so many cars that have, especially kind of in this crossover compact SUV segment, that have basically this exact same teardrop shape. So I think it's fine. I mean, you know, I am partial to this color, but I'd love to see a little bit of a change when it gets refreshed. But in terms of overall build quality and everything, you know, it's not perfect, but I really haven't had any major issues. I mean, like if I went around here with a ruler, I'm sure I would find some discrepancies and stuff, but I'm not the kind of person who that really bothers a whole lot unless something is like really messed up. But you know, I will say I've noticed like some of these kind of trim pieces here, they're like, it's not like they're loose, but like they feel like they're not super well on, and they feel kind of cheap, honestly. This one especially here, yeah, like this one here like kind of flexes when you push it, and like this is where I tend to close the door from, and so you can just feel like it doesn't feel like it's on very well. Makes me quite a bit nervous. And then, you know, here, yeah, not super lined up well and stuff. So I mean, you know, Tesla gets a bad rap for this stuff. You get you get what you get with it. Sometimes it's good, sometimes not so good. It definitely varies by the car and sort of when it was made and everything. But you know, I mean, any car I think is going to have things like that. Like I don't know, I've never really even like paid that much attention on other cars that we have of how consistent stuff is. So I really don't think it's a big problem. Like there's nothing hanging off here or anything worrying like that. And as long as it, you know, holds together and doesn't cause any sort of like maintenance problem, then I'm not at all worried about it. You know, I've also found it to be quite good in the snow as well. I think something about the low center of gravity with the batteries in the bottom, and of course the all-wheel drive definitely helps too. So
I think that the Model Y, with a little bit more clearance, and certainly with an all-wheel drive over the standard range version, definitely helps if you're going to be driving around in the snow or ice in any winter location.
All right, well, with that, that's pretty much everything I can think of that I have found and noticed and has stuck out over the course of 10,000 miles in this car. So I hope that that was helpful and interesting to you. If you are in the market for a new car, whether it is an electric vehicle or Tesla or not, maybe helps in your comparisons. But if there are any things that I didn't talk about and you have questions, definitely let me know below, and I will make sure to get back on those, either in the comments themselves or in a future video. But yeah, we've been using this car pretty regularly, and so probably end up crossing 25,000 miles not too long. So make sure to do another update video at that point. I guess in terms of updates, this car still feels very much like it's new. I mean, it is filthy from all of our skiing and road trips and stuff, but other than that, no issues or anything. We're not noticing any major rattles or squeaks or anything like that. No problems with driving. Haven't had to do a single bit of maintenance on this or anything like that, and everything's been holding up great. So by 20,000 miles, we'll probably have to start putting some thought into replacing the tires. I don't think we'll have to worry about brakes at that point because of the regenerative braking, but we'll see, and I'll definitely let you know if we do find anything unexpected in that time. But definitely one of the big advantages of a Tesla and EVs overall is far less maintenance. We don't have to do any oil changes or anything like that. So not expecting to really see much of the Tesla service department over the next 10,000 miles either. All right, well, with that, thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one. Bye.